speaking of whipping out your wiener, the Celtics lost to the Houston Rockets last night, and their old coach, old horny Ime Udoka, walking around playing the elephant game, all right, in the Celtics facility. Now he's gone to Houston to try to rebuild himself a little bit. I love it that you're still sick, and when I pop you, your tuberculosis is coming up.
Well, I was roughly sick last week, and I tweeted out the show. I said healthy, but I got this lingering cough. But unless I'm laughing, we're good. But you got me a couple times today.
Yeah,
so, try to be a little less funny moving forward.
Yeah, the elephant is always fun. I think that's what got Ime in trouble. However, the Celtics did blow a 10-plus point lead. They lose 114-112. Jay, they're just 32-15 on the year. And before we get into some of the numbers and where the betting markets are, I am not panicked yet, but there are some warning signs about blowing games at the end and some of the fourth quarter woes that definitely have my attention.
And I am not panicked yet either. And I'll say there are a couple reasons why. Number one, banner number 18 is hanging in the building. It's difficult to win multiple, difficult to win back-to-back or a few or become a dynasty or whatever it is. So they did raise a banner. I definitely believe it would be a huge disappointment if Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum don't raise multiple. But this team is about as interested in the NBA regular season as I am, Gresh, if I'm being honest. I really believe in Joe Mazzulla. And I really believe that if he's himself thinking maybe I'm not pushing all the right buttons right now, I believe that he will be able to do so. But regardless of whether or not they can get out of their own way, and I think they'll be able to do so, I just believe this East is deep, especially at the top, right? Even a team like Milwaukee, right? Giannis, just 30 years old. Doc's doing some good things. I think the Knicks are better than I expected them to be, and I think they're going to be a tough out. Cleveland will be in that one slot. I don't think they're moving out, so you're going to have to beat whether it's New York and then Cleveland and go on the road. I still believe in the Celtics, and I cannot wait to watch them, but I think it's a very long season. There's been a lot of people that have said over the years, oh, the season should start Christmas. Gosh, it really should. And I'll tell you a funny story, right? Eric Nixick, MMA coach, went to the Clippers game. He's very close with Joe Mazzulla. So he brought a few people to the Clippers game. Nixick sends us images of them after the game grappling in the locker room. Joe Mazzulla is such an MMA head. He's got Nixick on the ground grappling after the win. He's got to go, right? So this guy, Joe Mazzulla, is a very unique cat, and I think they're going to be ready to go come summertime.
I tend to agree with you. The closing out stuff is what has got my attention, because those are the things that can steamroll on you, let's say. Now, look, we haven't seen the best version of the Celtics yet consistently. And there was the game against Dallas, what was a couple nights ago, where they had the full complement. And I know they didn't have Luke on the other side, but the Celtics blew doors because they had their real people out there. Let's also remember this, and I think people forget about this, Jay. You know, when you look at Tatum and Brown, and Tatum, you know, he's played 3 rounds a year almost, if not 4, pretty much every year the guy's been in the league. And I bring that up because throw not 1, but 2 Olympic games in there where you're just playing.
Well, he wasn't
basketball.
playing, right? He wasn't playing. Steve Kerr had him give him the proper rest there.
You're right. And that's where I'm waiting for the angry Jason Tatum to come out, because right now he just looks like tired Jason Tatum. And I looked this up from 2018 to now. Tatum has played in not only those 2 Olympics, but 113 playoff games. So you're 1 full season, and you're almost halfway through another in terms of extra games played every year. I do think during the middle of that regular season, like where we're at right now, you know, no one wants to go to Detroit when it's 12 degrees on a Wednesday and play hard. I get it and I understand it, but they better be able to flip the switch, and I trust that they will.
Yeah, and I agree with all of that. And I think that's why some of this ho-hum stuff doesn't bother me. I've said ad nauseum, I think this team could suffer a major injury and is still deep enough to hoist one. I think they are the class of the NBA, not unlike the Philadelphia Eagles are the class of the NFL on offense and defense. I believe the Celtics are the class of the NBA. I believe they have the right coaching and leadership at every level. And this little lull during the year, I hate to say it, I don't mind it. Go peak at the right time. And if you need to trudge through some of this, they've been on the road a lot. It doesn't bother me that much.
Let's remember trade deadline as well. And even though there may not be the big pieces to trade, I think Brad Stevens has a couple of smaller ones that people maybe have their eyes on, and who knows what Brad Stevens could be up to. Now, in taking a look at the markets around the Celtics real quick, the C's are still, and you see Eastern Conference right there, they're still plus 110 to win the East. How about that, Jay? Look at the Cavs. The Cavs have a better record than the Celtics, yet they are plus 370. That's a gulf divide betting-wise between the Celtics and the Cavs right there.
I agree. I think I bet the Cavaliers when I was in Vegas 13-1 to win the championship a couple months back. I couldn't agree with you more. And I've said this over and over again. When Donovan Mitchell got injured in that series against Celtics, that series ended. That was a competitive series. I'm not so sure Banner 18 is risen if Mitchell was in that series. I'm not trying to go crazy here, Gresh. I know injuries are part of the game, but this Cleveland Cavaliers team is legit. I think Cleveland or New York, I wouldn't consider it a huge upset if they were to find their way through Boston in the postseason. And I hate to say it, this Boston team, even though they hoisted that banner, they've had a lot of disappointing postseason results, this unit.
No question. And I think for Cleveland, they should be trying to get Jimmy Butler. They need a Robin to the Batman that is Donovan Mitchell. But you look at the Celtics, it's plus 250 to win the finals. OKC is plus 240. Look at everybody else after that, by the way. So that's either the whole Vegas and the smarts know, or the betting market is just flooded with OKC and Boston money in terms of winning the championship. And look, here's another one too. If you think the Atlantic Division, if you start to like, say, the New York Knicks, and think that either the Celtics or the Knicks can end up beating Cleveland and getting to the finals, you have a Atlantic Division to win the NBA Finals is plus 160 on DraftKings. So if you don't want to split your money and go Boston and New York, maybe, because those two teams are going to be really tough for Oklahoma City to match up against. And, if you think it's going to be the Thunder and the Seas, you can get an exact matchup. OKC to beat Boston plus 750, Boston to beat OKC plus 800. And with the way it's trending, it might be smart. If you're going to go exact result, you might want to lock those in sooner than later if you're smarting on OKC and Boston, because, I think those numbers are only going to shrink the closer we get to the playoffs.
That Atlantic Division number is really interesting. That's a really interesting way to look at this, especially if you believe in Cleveland more as a regular season team than a postseason team. And there are these teams in the NBA regular season from time to time that they are going to be able to be the best team in the regular season, but they won't look like themselves quite in the postseason. I will say in the Western Conference, even the Lakers at 45-1 to win the championship, right? If the Lakers find their way into that OKC bracket, and you got Anthony Davis and LeBron James, and maybe they've made a move to sort of bolster that front court, I think they could be really interesting. They've played some good basketball in stretches. They're still young, and the roster is, shoddy, but I think they're interesting come postseason.
They are. And, there's always one team in the playoffs that kind of rattles cages a little bit. Last year it was Indiana. This year we still have the trade deadline. And then I think we'll be able to kind of hone in the analysis even a little bit more. Now, if you'd like an award involving a Celtics player, Sixth Man of the Year is looking pretty juicy. Peyton Pritchard is minus 155.
Pritch, please.
How about that? Pritch, please. And DeAndre Hunter is next in at plus 360. And then it's really all kind of long shots after that. So pretty much. And you know what's interesting, though, Jay? It cracks me up that Peyton Pritchard is the guy identified as the sixth man, because he's really like the seventh or the eighth dude. Hilarious. When you look at the way the Celtics are constructed, they kind of have that like starting six almost that you're picking from every night. And then you're sort of throwing Pritch Please in there. And most improved player, our guy Cody was on this. Cade Cunningham is minus 115. You can probably get some pretty good action there. Norman Powell's plus 175. Everybody else is just big numbers. And the MVP market, as you see right there, is getting out of whack because of SGA in the year that he's having.
Dude, the sixth man market is almost comedy. It's like, did Peyton Pritchard become the favorite when he hit the half court shot in the finals to become the sixth man of the year, right? It's like literally after a week, it's like, oh, this guy's lighting it up off the bench. He's your sixth man of the year already. It's hilarious. But I will say, if you've ever watched the footage of his dribbling drills, there is no accident that Peyton Pritchard has gotten a nice contract and crafted a nice career for himself in this league, and it's been work. His handle, it's almost like Kyrie's. His handle is sick, and it's just unbelievable how he could most certainly be the starting point guard on another team in this league.
Oh, there's no question. You got to live with his bad defense, and some teams will. But to your point, but he's one of those guys that is eminently tradable at the deadline here. I don't want to give him up, but if it turns into, and I know your eyes just got big, but think of this: they extended Hauser, they extended Pritchard. You don't necessarily want to pull those two guys off the roster. But if you can get a higher level version of a Hauser or a better version of a Peyton Pritchard, given the way the roster's constructed right now, do you do something like that? Let's also remember, I know it is the dirty secret in sports, there's a new owner that could be coming in as well, and he might look at that big tax bill and say, nah, maybe you start to shave some now and make a smart trade so that when I take this thing over, I don't have to get rid of all the ancillary pieces.
Yeah, if we're having a conversation like that next summer, perhaps, but there is no chance this team is competing in the postseason, defending their rings without Peyton Pritchard as part of the roster. No chance.
Ooh, interesting. We'll see how the trade deadline goes.